and gentlemen, welcome back to MUSKOX. Welcome to our engineering special. We've got a good one for you today. We are here live in the MUSKOX shop to show you behind the scenes of the innovation that goes on, the process of building out the MUSKOX snowblower. We're incredibly proud of everything we do here, and it appears that Ron is done with his snow blowing. You know that he's always leaving to go back to the shop, and it looks like we've caught him coming home. Let's head over to Adam, who also happens to be here ahead of time.
Hey, welcome everybody. Kind of excited to get out of the snow today and do something a little bit different. Everybody's intrigued by Ron, his brain, his thinking process. What we wanted to do today was not only go through the 2278, just show a few of our features that we're very proud of that are going to continue on in future models, but we also want to discuss the 2378 and get behind some of the thought process that goes into the engineering of the product. So behind me we have the 2278 that you guys have seen run successfully through the season. Behind Peter, I'll have him flip over. We'll get a little bit of an idea of a prototype that we've been working on with the 2378. We're gonna show you some things that worked well, some things that didn't work that well. And then we're gonna get back into an area where we weld, engineer, and Ron's constantly trying new things. So we're very proud of how the 2278 works, but with feedback that we get from customers, we're always trying to improve our product, right? That's part of being a manufacturing and engineering company and being successful at it, is listening to operators, continuing to test and show a new few things. So the first thing we want to jump into is that we have evolved with the design of the fan on the MUSKOX blower. So I'm going to show you guys here briefly on our 2178 and 2278 model. This is the type of fan that we used. So you guys have all seen that. And then we're going to get into talking about a little bit with the process of redesigning that fan and some new things we're really excited to be coming out with our new 2378. So I'll introduce Ron. Ron, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, internet world. How are you doing?
So a lot of you guys know Ron that are watching this. This is our engineer and co-founder on the MUSKOX snowblower and has a long history in the engineering world. Ron, pretty neat story about him. He owns several patents in the snowmobile industry and also the farming industry. So Ron was originally a dairy farmer for quite a few years and then made the shift and worked at Arctic Cat Snowmobiles for over 30 years, where he did research and development in the engineering program. So he's quite the mind. A lot of the unique things that wow you guys with the MUSKOX snowblowers, he was able to not only come up with the idea, but he's also able to build it, test it, and make it the best product we can have. So we'll hop back in here, and I think, Ron, why don't you kind of talk through a little bit, you're tacking together a 2378 fan that we'll get into and bring over to the shop bench?
Yeah, what I've got here is just a few things that I'm working on currently. And I thought I'd just leave some parts partially tacked together, kind of finish putting it together so you can kind of see a little bit of the process. And then I'll bring, here's a fan that I'm working on, here's some auger, paddle auger design that I'm doing some slight changes to. But maybe first what I'll do is finish tacking this impeller together. I can bring it over by kind of the evolution process of the high-speed fan, why we did what we did here at MUSKOX. So I'll go ahead and finish tacking this together if I can find my helmet. If you guys weld, if you ever done that where I have an automatic helmet, and if you don't turn it on, it kind of hurts your eyes a little bit. But
We'll have all of you know we sometimes have to remind Ron to put the helmet on. He usually just likes to get right to work and isn't necessarily a big fan of always remembering these things.
That we laser cut everything, so we put notches in it to line components up. Way back when I started engineering, we would have to take cardboard, make models, trace it out. Nowadays, it's pretty nice. We use CAD and design the parts. You know, first I'll show you when I do initial prototypes, I still do just hammer out parts and quick do a test called proof of concept. Then I take the next step, draw it up on CAD, and then we laser cut the parts. And you can see we put notches in there, everything lines up and pretty easy to prototype. So you can see I'm holding this blade in position. Just tacking it on. Here I have a tapered gusset, and you can see that'll fit right into a notch also. You can see when I tapped it there, it made this part perpendicular like I like it. Now I'm going to tack it again. And we'll move on to the next one. So you can see how easy it is to develop stuff. All you do is just like putting a puzzle together. Again, you can see my notches here. That helps everything line up so I'm not guessing. You can see now when I tap it into place, that knocked that paddle so it's perpendicular and I know it's straight. And then I'll tack this in place.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions about the MUSKOX, its design, the fan that you're seeing Ron work on right now, any of these things.
I'm old school. This is an auto lens, but I still flip it up, tip it down. Old habit.
Hey,
anyway,
Ron.
so this part is all, go ahead.
I was just telling them that if they have any questions for you, they should drop them in the comments, but I guess I need to talk a little louder.
Yeah, there you go.
Sorry for interrupting you, boss.
No problem. Anyway, so I've got this tacked together. That's probably far enough. I would now go forward and just weld the component together, and it's ready to go. I'll probably bring this over to the table with our other impellers and kind of go over why I made the changes and how it improved the function of the MUSKOX snowblower. Let's see if I can grab on where it isn't hot here. There. So, can everybody kind of see? Is that pretty visual from the top? And I'll go over kind of the explanation of what happened here.
Looks pretty good from our angle, Ron. So
Okay.
why don't you go ahead and talk through it, and why don't you, when you look up, talk to Peter's camera.
Okay. Hi,
and I'm
Peter.
going to put. I'll do a cool little thing here with that. But you talk to Peter's camera, but you can point with your hands. They can see both of them. All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
Like Adam said initially, this is the original design. It's very similar to all the snow blowers made out there in the industry. What we learned is when I'd be running the snow blower and they would film it, the camera kind of does a little bit of stop action, and I'd see the snow coming out of the chute, and there'd be spaces, it'd be solid air, and I go, geez, you know, that would indicate that we're casting a bunch of snow, no snow, a bunch of snow, no snow. So I was thinking, well, how would I make it more efficient? Well, make more blades. So I went forward and welded 6 blades onto the impeller. And the next thing I looked at is the snow blower has a high-speed fan, and there's an outlet chute for the snow to discharge. Well, as the fan would come by that discharge chute, it'd be optimum. Here it's going to throw. Then as it got at this angle, it was no longer throwing up. It was throwing crossways and not discharging a chute as well as it could. So I thought, well, why don't I angle or curve the blade? Because the snow is held in there as it would come around. Then as it gets to the discharge or the opening to let the snow out, I kept an optimum angle longer. So you can see here, this was my first prototype. I curved the blades, made them at a negative angle to the discharge, and it seemed to work better. I could go through a higher volume of snow through the same size discharge chute. The other thing I did, you can see this ring here was a bigger diameter than it needed to be. So I reduced that diameter, exposing more optimum paddle for throwing the snow. So there's reasons for just pretty basic, pretty simple ideas, but it did improve the function. Then I got thinking, well, maybe I don't need to arc the blades. That would involve making a forming tool. So then my next step was that I took and just made the blades straight, but angled them to I'd call them a negative angle to the discharge. So it simulates this, but they're straight blades. At the same time, I carried forward, reducing the diameter of the center hub to get more area for the snow out in its optimum throw area. And I thought, well, why don't I add teeth on it also, so as snow chunks come in, it would help chew them up. All these changes really made a significant improvement on volume that our 2378 will be able to handle snow.
Very exciting, and I will take a look at with this one, if we want to pull in or look at the camera above, the direction we're heading is that'll be a standard feature on the 2378. What is neat about that fan, for you guys that have the 2178 or the 2278, it is a fan that you guys will be able to purchase and put on there. We've been doing a lot of testing this winter with this fan design, so we got quite a few hours underneath our belt, and we're seeing around a 15% more efficient path to getting done with your snow. That's going to range in the type of snow you're running, but when you're big, heavy snow, all the things Ron described, it's going to allow you to eat through that snow faster when you're moving forward. So it's a fantastic job that Ron's done, and I think just looking at that camera and looking at how that's evolved is really neat to see up close, and how much different it is and why it works better. I'll take Peter with you at the camera if you want to back up. Well, looks like we got it lit in, and you guys can see a prototype up close of a machine in action that has several hours on it that we've been testing what you guys just saw as a prototype. So it's not painted yet. That's about the only thing that'll be different on the 2378. But I think you did a great job of explaining that, Ron. Now what I'd like to get into, if you want to start setting those on the ground, I'm going to show it up close. If you want to set those down, and then we'll get into the paddle. So if we look up close, this is our 2278 model that you guys have been watching on the videos. Several happy customers with it. And a question that we would have from a few customers is that, or people watching the videos, right, was that they would see some with the paddle, some snow coming out from the machine and coming outside the box on the 78-inch width we have. So this is what the auger looks like for the 2378. We will continue to offer the paddle auger up top. We've done a lot of testing and found out that by far is the best option for us. But we did a slight design change, so we want to show that up close. And I'm going to show one little sneak peek over here with this and show we have tried other styles of augers. So this is here just to show you guys that we're always trying out different ideas, testing them and finding that works best. So I'm just showing this idea to show you an idea that didn't work as well as the paddle, but to let you guys know we're always testing, always trying out different ideas. So Ron, if you want to get into, this is the paddle that you will see on the 2378, the same as the 22, or the one you saw in the 2278, but kind of show what we had in the 2278 and slightly what you changed on the 2378 and why.
There's a couple things like Adam was saying. If you can see here, it's pretty, that I missed it. It's something pretty simple that happened when we're rotating. These blades are angled so they're casting the snow towards the center of the blower. Well, I kind of missed it. I put these gussets on to help brace the tooth or the paddle, and you can see this outside one's angled out. Well, as it come forward, it'd throw a slight amount of, especially in dry, cold snow, outside when you're back dragging. So Peter, if you come over here, you can see this. I'm just putting together another prototype. This is as simple a change as I'm making. I'm just getting rid of that angle. So now you can see as this blower would rotate, it's rotating this way, throwing the snow inboard. I just got rid of that angle on the end. Simple things, improvements that we like to keep making. So getting input from you guys, or as we see as we're testing, we do the engineering here, the designing here, the manufacturing here. So input, what we learn, or as you guys learn things out in the field, let us know. And we'll work on it, keep testing to try to deliver the best product that we can.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, sir.
So I got two questions for you. One of them is new, and one of them is a throwback. So a new question, people are pretty excited about the fan, the 6 blades, higher output. If they've already purchased say a 2278, is it possible to use that fan, and what would the process look like if it is possible? So that's the first question. I'll let you answer that.
Oh, for the high-speed fan?
Yep.
Yes, that can. It uses the same hub. It involves using either a puller or long full-thread bolts that you can take a couple bolts out of the motor on the fan and push the blade off. It's a tapered fitting, and you can pull it off, and this fan will go right on your older existing MUSKOX model.
So that's easy enough, and I know that that was something you were testing and figuring out for yourself. And I want to remind people, if you have any questions for Ron, you can drop them in the comments right now, either on Facebook or YouTube, and we will answer them live. We've been going for about 15 minutes here. We will be going for maybe about 15 more minutes here. Ron, I just wanted to also rephrase a question from a few weeks ago. We love getting feedback from people who have new ideas and cool ideas, and some stuff that works out in the real world we want to hear about to see if we can implement here. So, Ron, a guy had told us a few weeks ago how using a flow divider on the attachment that his company builds worked really well for him. We were really excited to try that idea out, do a little bit more research on it, and ultimately we didn't necessarily think it was a great fit for the MUSKOX, even though we were super enthused to try that idea out. Ron, would you mind walking us through a little bit about the process of our flow and why a flow divider wouldn't be good for a MUSKOX but might work for another attachment? I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, there's we have worked on different designs trying to theorize that maybe we wanted to slow the lower auger down. We've done some flow dividers, bypasses, and have reverted right back to we run in series. We have 2 motors, our fan motor and our auger motor. The priority of our oil flow from our loader, or our unit that we're running the blower with, is to go through the fan. And secondary, in series, it goes through the auger. If we use a flow divider, we would be taking away flow from the fan, and that's really the part of the blower that the bigger your unit or the higher flow that you have, the better performance that you have on your attachment. Therefore, we put the proper motor on the fan to fit that flow. So if we reduce the flow by splitting it, we would theoretically reduce the cubic inch of the fan motor, which would decrease the performance of it. So kind of looking at, if you have a bigger machine, you want higher performance. Therefore, we need to keep full flow to our fan motor. That's probably the best explanation I can give. Of course, we appreciate your input.
It was good.
We look at any and all inputs to see if we can make a better product for you.
And just to underline what Ron said, it's a cool idea. We love hearing from people. We love kind of being a part of this community. We love understanding how things are working for other engineers because we can only test so much here. So if you have any ideas for us that you think might make the machine better, go ahead, let us know in the comments. We'd love to reach out to you and find out more about what is working in your world. And also, if you're an operator with questions, go ahead and drop them below. I'm going to throw back over to Adam to make sure that he's getting to talk about all the amazing features that we currently offer on the 2278 and also a bit more about the 23. So Adam, I don't know where you are. You're on Peter's camera. There you are.
Something I want to touch on to your point, John, and what Ron was bringing up is shortly, probably in about 5 minutes, we'll get over to the 2278 and talk about some of the features we're staying. But one of the features that are on the 2278 and will be on the 2378 is a really neat feature that we got from a customer when we talk about where the hydraulic hoses run and that design. Yeah. So we'll get into that. So exactly. I think it's just important to reiterate that of, hey, there's some ideas that come in that don't necessarily work, and we try to do things that don't work for us all the time, but we have a really neat feature that came through from one of our customers. It went from a suggestion to us testing it to now something that we're very proud of. That's a feature on the MUSKOX. So just thank everybody that's an operator out there sharing those ideas, and we'll show one other one that came from a customer that's getting implemented on the 2378. So thank you for all of you guys out there that do that. I kind of want to touch on this chute here a little bit. And the reason I want to touch on this, and Ron, you could talk about it, is as we're developing as a company, we're sure learning that snow conditions are different throughout the United States. Like, we test here in Minnesota, but the snow that you guys have in Portland, Maine, or have in Billings, Montana, or have in Lake Havasu is much different than what we have around here. So we're always evolving the product to be able to work in all conditions and effectively work in each one of those conditions. And Ron, why don't you talk about this feature that we're going to have for the 2378, the type of customer that would have it and why they would have it?
Our Chute Design, we had purpose for kind of everything that we did on it. It was a good open throat design. Our main focus was not to plug the snowblower. You'd go out, I've said this many times when we've been filming in the past, that the biggest aggravation I had would be blowing snow and the chute would plug. It was a safety deal also. You'd get out of the loader, and obviously you'd have to have it off, but you'd be jamming a stick down in there trying to open it up. So we reduced the height of the discharge chute. We put UHMW on it, kept it very open. So if you slow down and you jam into some snow real hard and the chute slows down, the snow just falls away and you aren't plugged. But then what we did notice is that when we're in real cold, sugary snow, when you'd rotate the chute a opposite direction of the rotate of the fan, you'd get some snow dusting out of here. It isn't a lot of snow, but it just for getting snow blowing back into your windshield. So what I've done is just taken another piece of UHMW, designed it so it doesn't take a lot of fasteners. On our 2378, we'll have holes in the side of this shroud, and you'll be able to purchase this accessory to help reduce snow dust. You'll just bolt it on, and it does reduce that amount of snow dust coming out. We will recommend that you don't run it, so keeping your plugging at an absolute minimum, and then adding this if you feel that you want to reduce snow dust from getting on your windshield.
I think we talked about that, but what kind of conditions are you finding, and maybe touched on that would want that shield?
Just cold conditions, like we've had this winter. If you've watched our videos this winter, we were cold out, 20, 30 below, and at that temperature, that cold snow just wants to fluff out of the discharge chute. So that's maybe the cold, dry condition is where you'd want to run that option.
Hey, Ron.
Yes, sir.
So we've got some questions coming in from people, and I wanted to run them by you. First of all, Brad Goss, G-O-S-S, hope I did your name justice there, Brad. He says hi.
Hello, Brad.
Folks, I'm trying to read questions and also position my picture in the screen, so there you go. So Brad says hi. Charlie Fuller, hello Charlie, has this question. Do you guys make a dump truck loading chute for this blower? I'm not entirely sure what that means, Ron, but I'm glad you're here, so you who know everything can respond to that. So thanks, Charlie. Thanks, Brad. Any more questions you have? We've been going for about 22 minutes here, folks. We're going to only have maybe about 10 more minutes, so if you got a question that's just kind of itching, go ahead and ask it. But Ron, back to you on Peter's camera.
We did, to answer that question, we did test with a loading chute, and all it would be, if you see our cylinder design here and how our top is bolted on, it was just a extended pipe that we put on and the flipper on top of it. What we noticed, and would just make sense to everybody out there, is a hydraulically driven attachment takes power. If it's a PTO driven attachment, they take less power to actually run the hydraulics. You lose about 20 to 30% of the given power. With that said, the chances of plugging a taller chute are significantly increased. So we just stayed away from that. This blower really doesn't fit that application. Like if you had a PTO blower on the back of a tractor that we're familiar with, or a payloader with a separate engine on it, and with a truck loader, that would be probably a better application for a truck loader. Does that answer it?
Yeah, Ron, that was great. Thank you. And I know that Adam wanted to get over to the 2278, but thank you for that, Ron. And I'm going to let Adam hop on to, well, wherever you want to go, Adam. I guess I'll just find you with the camera.
Peter, come with me. Get
right.
Ron over here, and then ask you, why aren't we using those fancy headsets today? We've got to talk really loud
Well,
to
I'm
share
listening.
this
My ears
information. He's half deaf. But anyway, we're the first time in the shop and testing it all out. What I want to get into now is the hydraulic control block. So I'll hop onto Peter's camera and talk for a little bit. Hydraulic control block, get into that. So we have a few things that are slightly different. I'll get out of John's camera here, but a few things that are slightly different with that hydraulic control block. So Ron, if you want to talk, there's quite a few features, but there's kind of two of them that we talk about with customers quite often if you want to get into.
Get into the basics here. This is the block that's on our snowblower. If you'll notice the size of it, if you look at the competitor, or most of the competitors, their block is about half this size. We do have a purpose for making it larger, and one of them is that we have two bypasses. One, this is for the auger, so if you run into a snowbank, you stop the auger, there is a bypass port in here that'll just return this flow to the tank. Because like I said, we're in series. So if you stop this flow, if you didn't have a bypass, it would stop or slow the fan down and promote plugging. So we have a bypass, we have big porting. So if you stop the auger, the fan keeps running at full speed and significantly reduces plugging, like I talked about earlier. The other thing that goes on in this block, and we've been asked that question, there's a port, it's called a CD or case drain port. On some attachments, you have to run a separate hose back up to your skid loader or whatever you're using to run the blower. We handle it within this block, so it goes right from our fan motor. There's a hose that goes into the case drain port in this block and handles that. So as we get on, maybe we'll talk more. I don't know if we'll talk about it today. I can get into another reason for this block is we have just one set of hydraulic hoses. We run our fan and our auger, and then we have two other functions. We have the rotate and the flipper that are both hydraulic functions. So this block also handles that. There's just solenoid controlled valves here. They're just electronic 12-volt solenoids that go over this pin. You hit the trigger in your loader, it moves this pin up and down in here and directs flow to your rotate or your flipper. So that is part of the purpose for what looks like a complicated piece here, is to create those functions.
And no case drain, like you said.
No case drain, it's right in the block.
That's a very neat feature. So I'm going to take this down real quick, Peter. And for you guys that are just joining us, welcome. I'm Adam with MUSKOX Snowblowers. This is Ron with MUSKOX Snowblowers. I handle sales and development to the product and the business side of it. And Ron is our engineer and designer. So we're here today just showing a little bit behind the 2278 and showing some new features to the 2378. And I want to pull up real quick for you guys just joining us. For our 2378 model, we're coming out with a new redesigned fan, and there's some real exciting reasons why we're doing that. It's also really neat that that fan will fit onto 21 and 2278 models. So if you guys are currently operating successfully with them, you'll be able to reach out to us and we can talk about why you may want to get that fan, and just really excited about it with the 2378 model. So I'm going to set up those fans one more time before we look at the 2278 for everybody that's just joining us.
And what I'll have you do, Adam, is you can just keep talking to Peter's camera, and we'll use good old camera 3, the top down, to show the details of those fans.
Perfect. I didn't drop it on my fingers, so I'm happy. And we'll start with top camera showing down. This is a fan that we have on the 2178 and 2278. Very common fan. You guys have seen them quite often. You're going to see an idea of a test model that we used and what the ideas behind that were. And then you're going to see the product we ended up landing on. So Ron, if you want to go through one more time real quick for anybody just joining us, let's talk about where we were at and where we landed with our fan for the 2378.
Probably the most basic thing here, Adam, is that instead of 4 paddles, we went to 6 paddles. And like I said, we seen that really when we watched films of the blower blowing, you could see solid snow and then no snow. So therefore, by having 6 paddles, we discharge more snow. The first model I made was curved. which got to be complicated. I hand built this to test the concept. The other thing was the negative angle to the outlet. So as the paddle comes by, the outlet in the original design, as it got halfway through the outlet, you could see if this were the paddle, it's no longer throwing out, it's returning the snow within the impeller housing. So the first thought was that I would angle that to a negative angle to the outlet. So here the snow was held in the drum, and as it got to the outlet, of course, it'd start releasing the snow, but as I'd come by in rotation, you still had a positive throw angle by curving or angling the blade. After testing this, I liked what I seen. Then to simplify the design, you can see this is where I landed. So I just put a negative angle on the paddle to the discharge, worked with the disc diameter to give more. This is the optimum throw end of the paddle. So by reducing this disc diameter, I increased that area. We also added teeth on it to help chew up the snow as it enters the fan. So all these, what I'd call small but maybe significant changes, really improved on the discharge, the amount of snow that the 2378 will be able to push through our MUSKOX blower.
Super exciting. Peter, why don't you come with me quick? We're going to show one more feature before we head out of here, but I want everybody that joined us a little bit later to see that is the new fan in action inside a prototype machine. You guys paying attention are going to see that auger on top looks a little bit different as he's getting close to that fan. That's an auger we tested and found out over time that the paddle that we've gone with works significantly better when we're back dragging. So that's just seeing the inside of one of those fans and just part of the test process we go through. And for the 22 and 2378, this is the design on the augers. The paddle will stay very close to the same. You saw a little earlier, there will be a slight design change on the very ends of the paddle to help continue to hold snow inside the machine, but gives you guys a good idea of the inside of the 2378. And if I believe right, yeah, you can look in close. We got the new fan inside of that one, so should have went there. And it doesn't have the light under it. You saw it up close, Peter, but you guys got a good idea there. So that's got that.
And Adam,
yeah.
While you're talking about the fan, our man Charlie, thank you, Charlie, for hanging out with us today. We appreciate it. Charlie's wondering, what's the average casting distance? He knows that it varies with snow conditions, but I know this is something we're pretty proud of, but I'll let you have the glory of talking about that. Our casting distance.
Well, maybe sometimes too far if the neighbors, if you don't want to put it in his yard. But
too far, it's too far for the neighbors.
So to Peter's camera, and it's a great question, Charlie, you definitely might have a conversation with the neighbors because you'll blow snow into their yard. It really ranges by the snow condition, Charlie. So if we get really wet, heavy snow, right, we're blowing out as far as the competition, and you could be 15 to 30 feet in some of those conditions. A lot of our videos that you'll see, we've been really cold. We're at Northwest Minnesota, so it's a really dry snow, and that snow is casting 60, 70 feet out there. So we have a lot of customers out there. We have not had anybody disappointed in where the snow was casting to. So it goes a long ways. It just really depends on the snow condition. So to give an exact number is tough, but I would say that range can be between 20 and 70 feet comfortably depending on the snow conditions, but you'll be happy with that performance. And I know you had a great question earlier, Charlie, too, with that chute. This is our standard chute on it, but I think there's maybe some things we can take offline for discussion. If all you're trying to do is blow snow into the back of a truck, I think that's a good conversation that we can take offline with you too as we look moving forward.
And for anybody else watching who's curious about what performance we can do, if you rewatch last week's live stream, you will see that we had a very tall 12-foot pile of snow, and even though we have a lowered chute, that chute was clearing that and then some. So if you want to see the range in action and you don't want to wait 2 weeks for our next special, our next live stream, if you go back watch 2 weeks ago's live stream, you'll see some pretty good performance.
Yeah, good way to answer that. We talked about earlier, probably, 15 minutes ago, time flies when you're standing in front of camera. It's always really nervous at first, goes really slow, then all of a sudden it's like time just flies by. But we talked about a really neat feature that an operator gave us this idea, right? We're operators building for operators. So as we get feedback from you guys, we're always trying to improve our product. And although I can come up with ideas, Ron can come up with ideas, different people in the team can come up with ideas, some of the best ideas come from you guys out there because you're experiencing this all the time. So Ron, why don't you hop back? I believe I got the light on there right for you, Peter, but talk about the hook, where we were at, where we're at today, and that all came from an operator.
Really simple idea. We used to have our hose attachment up high, like probably most attachments do. So we were out, I think it was out in Montana, and this fellow comes up and he goes, well, for stupid, why don't you put the bracket down where the pivot point is, therefore when you rotate the bucket, you won't be putting tension on your cables. And I go, oh, geez, thank you, great idea. And that's where that idea came from. Simple, something that we blew right by, so we appreciate that input.
Why don't you grab that light that's down there? It's got a magnet to it. You'll see it underneath there. Peter, why don't you come over here, and then we'll show you one more.
I thought you wanted me to put it on my face.
Hello, Radio Land. Come over here with it. I'll take that light from you. This will be the last feature, and this was also from feedback from customers, but why don't you talk about, tight squeeze, but the step there.
This also came from a customer that's, I'm getting older, and a lot of our operators are getting older and don't try to step up to climb up on top of the loader to get into your skid loader, on top of the blower to get in your skid loader. They said, why don't you create a step? So in our 2378, this is a 2278, but the 2378, this hole will be cut as a large rectangle with teeth on the bottom. So now you can put your foot here, step up one step onto this step and into the loader. So again, that was input that came from an end user, so we appreciate it. Don't feel bad about critiquing us. We take input as positive, and we're trying to build the best product that we can for you, the consumer.
Thank you so much for that, Ron. It's been a lot of fun looking at these different features. As Ron mentioned and Adam's mentioned a couple times here, we're going to be not really showing the 2278 too much more on the live stream. In 2 weeks' time, we're going to be featuring and launching our 2378 model, which you guys got a little sneak peek of just today. So we've been using the same 2278 for all of our live streams this year, and as we continue to innovate both in the snow removal space but also in how we show you these features, doing these live demos on the internet, it's been a lot of fun. It's been one of the more fun things that I think all of us have done this winter. Certainly helped us get through a record-breaking blizzard season. So we are going to go ahead and toast to the 2278. Ron likes Jameson. He's less enthusiastic about quality drinkware. So you'll pardon me, folks. I'm going to cut to the wide angle.
Well, now, John, I remember you had a Valentine's special, and I can remember the wine glass you had. I don't know that we wanted to present ourselves with a wine glass, but.
And I should also say, we're going to make Noah get into the frame here. MUSKOX wouldn't be MUSKOX without Noah.
You know why I drink Jameson?
No, why do you drink Jameson, Ron?
Because it's cheap. No, actually, what was the name of that show, Noah, that I'd watch? The Ranch. The Ranch.
The Ranch.
And I thought they were very cool, and I'd see them sitting out on the porch drinking Jameson, so that's how I ended up starting to drink Jameson. Of course, I don't drink too much.
I will add, for just for posterity's sake and all propriety, please notice that we have operated the machinery, and only then are we consuming beverages, which we'll not be operating the machinery
this
following
will sit
this.
Right here.
Please
we'll
enjoy.
Please
enjoy responsibly, folks.
For you guys still on, hey, thanks for a great run with the 2278. I almost want to give the old machine a hug because it's been a successful run with it. Thank you to RDO, all the other partners that have helped us out this year. There's been a lot of dealerships and a lot of people that have played part in it, whether it's Peter behind the camera right now, or John behind the other camera, or Cassidy, or Mike, or all the other people that have helped make this a successful run. So cheers to all of you. We're officially putting that 2278 to bed and moving on to the 2378. We're excited about that and what the future brings with new models. So cheers to you guys as operators. Noah, well done. Ron, Dad, well done. Thank everybody.
Thank you, Adam. Noah.
Thank you. See you guys soon.
To our customers.
To our customers. All right, John. Thank you. We'll probably close it out for all of us.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As they've mentioned, we will be live again in 2 weeks' time. We will be rebroadcasting this engineering special next week. In case you have someone you want to show this to, please go ahead and do so. 2 weeks' time. Until then, Ron would say keep your stick on the ice. I prefer don't blow snow in your face. Whichever ending you prefer. We hope you all have a very, very safe end to the winter and a very, very good start to March. It's March. It's already March. Oh my word. Anyway, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.